Hello, folks. How are you all? Welcome to this is a new series we are doing at the moment. We're actually starting it from today, and it's called Chatterhouse Up Close, where we will be bringing people in to talk to. It could be a singer, it could be a songwriter, it could be a member of public who's maybe achieved something. It's just basically what the Chatterhouse is always about. It's always about people and their lives and what's going on in their lives. But today is a special one. Today we have a singer, songwriter, DJ, anything to do with music. This man can do it. In the 80s, do you remember the 80s? We all had our shoulder pads. We all danced around our handbags, well, the women did anyway. There was a group in a band called KonKan, and they sung a very special song. And the song incorporated the song was called I Beg Your Pardon. And what we're going to do is we're going to talk to the person who was in that band, wrote those song, whatever. And his name is Barry Harris. Now, Barry is actually talking to us today from Canada, Toronto, and Canada. And I'm going to bring him forward now. So, will I just grab him here? Hello, Barry. How are you?
Hey, Stuart, good, thanks. How are you?
I'm not too bad. Listen, well, first of all, thank you so much for doing this today, and it's lovely to meet you. I'm just going to tell everybody, first of all, how I got to speak to you. Anybody who hasn't seen, the Chatterhouse also has a section of it where I do reactions to music. Now, I am 54 years old, and in the 80s, when Barry's song, I Beg Your Pardon, came out, I would have been about 17 years of age, but for some reason it escaped me. I had never heard it. So someone had suggested to me to do a reaction to it. So I did a reaction to it. And if you look on my channel, you will see that reaction. And there's another reaction after that. And Barry commented, he came across it and he commented on it. And I contacted Barry, and this is how we came in contact. It's amazing the way things work out. How did you come across that, Barry, anyway? Were you just having to scroll through YouTube, or what actually happened?
I do scroll through YouTube all the time, and I
Mm-hmm.
stumbled across it. I almost missed it, and then I was like, "Oh wait, what is this? I haven't seen this before." And I clicked on it, and I thought it was just so fun. It was so
And you,
fun watching your reactions were so fun.
I also as well. You seen all the bad dancing as well.
That's what makes it fun. It was funny. It was really cute and funny.
Just to let you know, folks, we will be playing this song at the end. So if you want to stay tuned, you're in for a treat. But it's not. I'll explain more about that at the end. So Barry,
Yes.
let's talk about you. So let's find out more about you. Even before KonKan came along, before how what were you like growing up? How were you introduced to music? How did music enter your life?
Oh gosh, it's all my life. It's funny that
Mm-hmm.
you say that because I had a recent friend, like a girlfriend of mine, that knew me since I was 13, and we were talking about that. And that was just last month. She came to visit, so we're still in touch. And she just reminded me, I forgot how crazy musical I was about everything. I was playing guitar and piano at that time, and I was just it was just music has always been inescapable in every way, shape and
Okay,
form. I've been playing in bands at 15. So
unbelievable. So basically, then when you were younger, did you take like piano lessons, music
uh
lessons? Yeah, absolutely.
yeah, it's funny. My mom always said, the music teacher said when I was 7, I think Barry's very musically inclined. And I was like, I don't even know what the word inclined meant, but okay. But yeah, then I understand now. Yeah, for sure.
I actually find it quite sad when I see children going for music lessons, and they don't sort of see it through. They don't finish what they start with. And
Right.
in my eyes, this is my personal view. In my eyes, they maybe just not tuned in properly. It's not for them. But
Hmm.
it's very sad that I see some parents really pushing their children to do these lessons, and you can see quite obviously they don't want to do it. But then, as you say, it was there with you. As we would say here, Barry, you would have the ear for it. You had the ear for the music. You were tuned into the music. music meant something to you from a very,
Mhm.
very young age,
Yeah.
and not everybody has that.
Well, I don't know. What can I say? I don't know what to say
Okay.
to that. You just are, you'll follow the road that just feels, if you're doing, like I think say, if you do something that you love, it will never feel like you've worked a day in your life, as they say. So,
Absolutely.
so
Absolutely.
I've always kind of stuck to that, though it's not, it's a very insecure. You don't get the security of having a Monday to Friday 9 to 5, knowing you've got that job unless you mess up and get fired. But that it's a whole unknown roller coaster going through music. So I think that's a lot of um, another aspect that you really have to be willing to endure. I think the unknown, going through life so blindly, just when everything's great, suddenly it's not. And you just have to keep working to make it great again as you can. And sometimes it will be, and sometimes it won't. It's just such a roller coaster.
Absolutely. Because as I told you, and I know this is not about me, when I was growing up, my father, like yourself, my father sang in a band all his life since he was 14-year-old. He played the drums. And he was always at home learning the songs. In those days, it was the single. He used to record it onto tape. I used to play it back, rewind, play it back, rewind. And we were actually learning the songs with him. I always had that in my family.
Right.
Okay, so the first band, so basically the first band, you were 15.
I was just like a garage band, more rock stuff in like 75 and stuff. Um,
Okay,
we didn't go anywhere. We were just kids, didn't, but still making a go of it. Yeah, but
okay,
nothing happened. It didn't go anywhere. But I was
okay.
playing.
So, sorry, go ahead, go ahead.
No, I was playing bass in that.
Okay. So where did we progress to the next stage then, Barry? Where did it all start? Where did this journey begin? The journey that you're basically still on at the moment. Where did it start? All start.
Well, I knew I always wanted to make my own record, and I did try in my early 20s, um, going for a real 9 to 5 job in like an insurance brokerage. Because I've always thought that even when I was in high school, I don't need this high school. I was basically a dropout. I'm going to be a rock star. Was my cocky, stupid attitude. I listened to my mother. You need to get a real job. Start in the mailroom. Work yourself up. So I did. But around 23 is when I said, I can't do this. I'm not made to do this. I want to make my own record. And I felt at the time I would start DJing and
Yes.
getting into club DJing, and around 83. And then that progressed into like one of the biggest clubs in Toronto with the Copa at the time, one of the few
Wow.
by 1987 or so. And I got frustrated because it wasn't leading into the musical world. I think as being in Canada, wasn't leading into getting inside a record company or studios or stuff, even if it was remixing. There was a couple of little maybe things with independent label in like 1986 for me. So I'll try to make quick. So I took off to
Okay.
Portugal thinking
You
I'm
did.
going to move to the south of Spain and Portugal, and I'm going to DJ in the Mediterranean. I want more. I wanted something more. Just the DJing and club DJing. I felt that I'd worked up as far as I could in that aspect, and I wanted more. So I learned Portuguese in
Okay.
Lisbon, and for a couple of months, and then a friend of mine suggested that I come back to Toronto and go into a studio with a friend that she knew, a friend of a friend, has a studio running and up
Okay.
for MIDI. And I said, okay, then I'll give it a go. So I went back. I also worked at a record store, an import record store, like a couple of different jobs. And they had done a couple of independent records. So I came back to Toronto with the ambition that I am going to make my own record. God damn it, do or die. Enough is enough.
Okay.
And so I approached the record store and said, I've got an idea for a record. Would you guys be into financing it? And I went to this an hour. It took an hour bus ride outside of Toronto, and a city outside of Toronto called Hamilton. And I worked with a guy named Tom, who had his own studio, MIDI studio, in his basement of his parents' house out in the country. And I gave them the record company a little idea. They did a demo of what I had in mind, and they were like, "Oh yeah, okay, yeah, let's do this." And it was just an instrumental at first. I didn't really.
Hmm.
It was growing as I was making it, going back and forth week after week. So that is, in a nutshell, how it began. And by May of 1988, I worked on it. I came back January, February, March, April. I remember the end of May is when I finally had it done by working on it on part-time weekends. And I knew I had the idea for how they smile for a while and let be jolly. And the only reason it stutters is because in those days, the technology, I couldn't fit it to fit in the whole, um, I can't remember how to explain it. I had to cut it up to make it fit into the
Yes,
sampler at
yes.
the time. And the BPMs to make it fit, I had to spend the time to little fill la 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 love to make it work. So that's how we ended up splitting it all up. And then the key of the song had to be in that, whatever that turned. So there's a lot of little things to do. And that then it came out on an independent label in Toronto around June, I think late June or early July 1988.
Okay.
And is that enough of a story up to that point?
Yes, okay. So you got to, so it went into, it was only in Canada first then, yes? It was
Hmm.
released in Canada first.
Yes.
So when did it then branch out to the UK and around the world? How did that progress?
Well, what happened is it was because the record company was an import dance store, they were
Yes,
in a position with the distributors to get their record, which is mine, their
yes.
record out the other way around, down into the States.
Okay,
So it was getting distributed into the States as an independent record, for one thing. And then another thing, in August, I was at a club, dance club, because I was just visiting my friends, and I knew all the DJs in the city,
yes.
as well, and so did everybody in the record store, and they all supported us as well with this record. And that is where one weekend I met Mark Nathan from Atlantic Records, New York, and
Mm-hmm.
my DJ friend said, "Hey, there's a guy from Atlantic Records here that wants to meet you." And I'm like, "Oh, cool." So I did in the booth. He says, "I don't want." I said, "I don't want to come across like," and I'll never forget it. "I don't want to come across like a big cigar smoking record executive, but I think your record is a hit record, and I want to take copies, and I hope I can convince my colleagues down at Atlantic Records, New York, that hopefully they'll feel the same way." And I was like, "Oh, sure, okay." And I'm just going home, and I was basically going, "Oh my god," I was on, like, floating on a cloud, going, "Oh my god, that is
Absolutely.
that is huge." So I don't know exactly how. I've heard different stories of how it started blowing up. Some stories, in like, there is a big alternative station in Rhode Island. He claims that he had an import and broke it there, that it blew up
Okay.
there for him. I first heard of it happening in Houston at WKRBE, and Mark has somewhat told me that he had given them some copies, because Mark used to work in radio. He was radio promoter at the time. So
Yes.
he slipped them a copy. I'm not too sure if they did or if they'd gotten it as an import, but it was blowing up and going up the charts. And I remember when Mark called me one time, and he would keep in touch. He'd call with me because I was also working at the distributor in the record store, as you know, also promoted my own record, and he had the number. And I remember he called me and said, "Hey, so I'm just checking in. How's it going?" And I said, "Hey, you never guess what? I just heard someone called me from Houston and said I beg your pardon's blowing up in Houston." And he's like, "What? I'll call you right back." Click. So I don't think he knew it was blowing up. So that's when it was flying. It flew up the charts very, very quickly because of audience reaction, even as an import. That kind of story is extremely rare, even at the time, to have happened like that. So I've been told.
Yeah. When I first heard it that time on my channel, it's just it's that beat when it starts. You just have to move. That's how I think. Badly, maybe, as to say, but it's got that beat, and then it's got that little bit in the middle, like beg your pardon bit in the middle, which blends in lovely. But it's absolutely, I don't know. As I say, I was that age when it came out. I don't know how I didn't hear it. I really, really didn't. But what I have learned since speaking to you the last time, and I don't want to offend anybody here by what I'm going to say, it was very, very popular in the gay community. The song as well in the gay pubs, clubs, discos. It was very, very, very popular. It had a very, very big, a lot of gay interest in those types of clubs as well. I actually I heard that there the other day because on the comments to that reaction I did, not the first one, but the second one, there's a lot of people had actually said that. Oh, I remember dancing at in the gay clubs in the 80s and stuff. And it's lovely to hear that people were enjoying it, people were dancing, because that's the whole idea.
Mm,
People loved it.
yeah, yeah.
So I think it got to number 5 in the UK charts. So it did.
The following year, because
The
by
following year.
it was starting to blow up in around Christmas time, '88 in the States by November,
Yeah.
December. And I remember, and I hadn't done an album. I had not done an album. I had no intention to do an album. I was just putting so much energy, all my energy in getting, I beg your pardon, taking off and going. And I
Yes.
remember, I'll tell you, there's a time also when I was promoting it, and this is a funny story. There, in the UK, I had some other artist friends that had a good connection with the UK in their independent label. And they suggested a promoter in the UK that I give, I beg your pardon, to. So I gave him lots of copies, 10 copies to sit around. And it took me a couple of weeks or more before he'd even respond. And finally, the response was, when it was an independent label, the response was, well, it's very, what did you say? He said, it's very American sounding. I don't think it's for us, basically. And I was like, I think American sounding. I have
Absolutely
totally
not.
had European in my mind all the way around. It was totally not American sounding to me, except for the Rose Garden. But I know now how promoters work, unless it's a clear hit. So anyway, so it ended up being in the UK through Atlantic Records. It ended up being the chart 5, I think, the highest charting of everywhere in the world in
Yeah.
Britain.
Yeah,
So
because I initially said back to my reaction, and you actually commented on it as well. Because when I heard it, because I do have a bit of an ear for music, as you know myself, because my background, I did originally say it gave me, my initial reaction was late 80s, early 90s sort of
right, yeah.
vibe. And I was right, because it was that sort of era that it was out. Absolutely,
You know what
absolutely
else
is.
is
I
really
loved it.
fun? What I've learned meantime, up last year or the year before, Freddie Mercury, they were auctioning off his record collection. Yeah, I beg your pardon, was part of it. It was so
There
cool.
you go.
I was so
There
happy.
you go. Our
I got
Freddie.
Freddie Mercury a few things.
Absolutely amazing. I love that Freddie. So so there's actually a question I was meaning to ask you and I haven't asked you. The name KonKan.
Yeah.
Where'd that come from? Where'd that come from?
Well, in my endeavor there's so many little details of the making of I beg your pardon that I put into it. Even that big giant sticker that you put on of the red thing that said it's just a plain white jacket. I not only made sure that when you walked into a record store, you couldn't miss it. I just wanted to
Yeah.
say, I beg your pardon, you can't miss it in a record store. So I got the biggest sticker I possibly could. And I don't know how we did it, but I made sure that sticker was on when DJs flip through records, it would be on the slit inside.
Yes.
Things
Yes.
like details like that. And when I made this record, I had no idea what I would call it by. It was my intention to do just this on one-off indie label, like a lot of dance records are. S
Yes.
Express,
Yes.
Bass Hello Can You Go, Tim Simonon, Bomb the Bass, things like that were real influences. Pump Mars, Pump Up the Volume. I just had it in my mind that it was just going to be something like that. It was
Yes.
way beyond my imagination for it to evolve. I don't think it crossed my mind that it would blow up in the States. I just always thought Europe would first. But anyway, as Canadian, there was an independent alternative radio station in Canada, in Toronto, that was very influential, just like that
Okay.
KRE station in Rhode Island, in Canada, and they were doing a contest for independent labels or independent bands. Say, mail us your demos. So, and she said, make sure you do something special to your presentation that you send us, so it doesn't mix in with everything else, so it stands out. So I was thinking, well, what will I call this by? I thought, well, I've been a DJ in Canada, and a club DJ, that is, and I'm very aware of the term KonKan, Canadian content. Everyone's always saying
Oh, right, okay.
support your Canadian artists, um, so as much as possible, either the production or the music and the lyrics or the artists. So I thought, okay, how can I? Oh, what if I called? And they're going to be aware of that as well, obviously, radio stations. So I thought they can't ignore my record if I called it not KonKan, but I flipped it around and call it KonKan. That they can't miss it. How could they ignore it? So that was the method of my madness for that.
Okay. So from the song "I Beg Your Pardon," there
Mhm.
was there another song came along first, or did that when an album came out? If you can explain that to me.
Well, as it all started blowing up, Atlantic Records wanted an album. So
Yes.
I got management and went down to LA, and I started working with different songwriters and different producers. The one that I clicked with the most actually is Bob Mitchell, who's out of the UK, and I've gone there to write the third album, a lot of songs with him since, and I even have something kind of new that we wrote years ago that
Okay.
I get out. So I've written a lot of things with Bob
Yes.
Mitchell. So that's basically how it all came about. Does that make
And
sense?
the album name was called "Move to Move." Is that right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
And that had "I Beg Your Pardon." Harry, I'm reading this out by the way in case I don't forget. Harry Houdini, was that on that one? Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
Move to Move, Puss in Boots. Is that correct?
yeah.
Was Liberty on that one too?
No, Liberty's on the second
No. Let's talk. Okay, so that was your album. When did Liberty come along?
album. Liberty.
You know I love Liberty. You know, I thought I loved I Beg Your Pardon, but Liberty, as we say here, blew me out of my seat. Tell me about Liberty. Tell me about Liberty. Love it.
Oh, well, Liberty was another. Once again, I was just very European influenced on that, and wrote that probably '89 before
Okay.
with Bob Mitchell again,
Yes.
and um, I always knew how it would sound. I always had a bottom, idea of the melodies and stuff, and then we get together and he'd help fill in the blanks. So when that came about, we did that a lot in. Most of that was made in New York, and then
Okay.
some of it was made in the UK with Martin Phillips, who did The Beloved, and I think he did Jesus Jones, and I've been thinking about you and London Beat at the time. So we
Oh, I
did,
like that wee one. Yep.
yeah, we did some songs with him as well, the UK. So Liberty came about. Yeah, well, we made it. That was done in New York, and I was happy to get in with some more UK producers who would, I think, understand me more. I think if the first album, hindsight's 2020, I should have gone to Europe or UK then, but because everything was so Americanized and American, I was, shipped to Los Angeles is not the place where I should have really gone to make that album.
Yeah.
As far as little did I know, but I was like shipped off there. It's like, oh, okay, I'll go to LA in January and February, sure. But anyway,
Okay.
I'm
Yeah.
digressed.
By the way, folks, if anybody hasn't heard the song Liberty, I will put the link to it's actually called at KonKan Band YouTube channel, and go and have a look and a listen. It's absolutely amazing. Absolutely amazing. Right. So we had moved to move. We went on after that. Then we moved on to Liberty. What happened after that, Barry? Let's go to the next stage. Where did we go after Liberty. Where do we go after that?
After Liberty, well,
Yeah.
it was. Well, how do we say it? Okay, well, how do I make that long story short? Well, after Liberty, it did Liberty developed. We went to Brazil, toured. Debbie Cole and I went down to Brazil and toured there. It was great.
Sorry, can I
Liberty.
just interrupt you? I can interrupt you because it's just something dawned on me there. Liberty was not released in the UK, was it?
I think it was. I think it was
Oh,
released
was it?
in the world.
Okay.
I well, I'm not 100% sure actually, but it's my
Okay.
impression that it was released all around the world.
Okay. All right. No problem.
I think.
Right. Sorry to interrupt you. It just came into my head there, and I must ask that question because I wasn't sure myself. So let's move on then. After Liberty, where do we go from there?
After Liberty, it was basically it didn't really happen as Atlantic
Okay.
Records would have liked it to, so I was dropped by
Okay.
and by 90, as many are, and
Mm-hmm.
from there I just kind of scratched my head for a couple of years, and then it was Mark Nathan. Mark Nathan is in this story a lot. The guy that originally met, in the bar. But I beg your pardon. He was managing me, and he had a friend in Toronto that had a record label that was distributed by A&M, and he hooked it up, and we basically got the option to do a record there, which there was no real budget, but he was willing to use his distribution. It really felt like it was okay. This is done and finished. So I went into a studio again and proceeded with Sinful Wishes, another written by Bob Mitchell and myself.
Yeah.
And also, it was also weird because you have to remember the 80s. You have to remember, hindsight's 2020. You remember the decade of the 80s. Now we're into the 90s. Now we're into the grunge area, and everyone is
Changed. Yeah.
anti-80s, anti-hair band. People like Bon Jovi, they probably weren't working nowhere in 90, 91, 92, I would bet. Not with the whole Soundgarden and all that whole cultural shift. So it was very anti-80s, just like in the 80s was anti-disco. So I think a lot of people, even Depeche Mode, do you remember Depeche Mode? They went all kind of grungy looking and stuff. So a lot of people didn't really know what they should be doing or what
And
direction.
also what I found in the late 80s, early 90s, house music started to come in this
Oh yeah,
house music
yeah.
trend came in. It's me, what is this? And some of it didn't even have lyrics. It was just music only.
Well, for you guys in Europe and the UK, yes, and
Okay.
still to this
Yes.
day. One thing Bob Mitchell said to me when it still makes sense, and that said years ago. He said, "Barry, America is the land of the guitar, and Europe is land of the synthesizer." And I still
Yeah.
think that's even true. So America is not as quick to embrace dance music as Europeans. They don't care that Milli Vanilli was a studio. I don't think they do. I don't think they cared that Boney M was a studio thing, not a real
Okay.
band. That good music is good music. If they like the songs, they like the songs. They're much more
Absolutely. Yeah.
forgiving. As where in America, if you're fake it or not a band, it's like, Anyway,
Yeah.
as you know, Europe and America, the rest of the world seems to be much more embracing of dance music as in general than in the States.
Okay. Okay. So then what happened then? Where did we go from there with your career? Where did you move to next? Did you stay? Did you go into is this when your more of your writing come in? Because I know you mentioned something there that because there's other references here. 2020. Oh, it says here 2020. There was an album called Vita that was released in
Yeah,
Canada.
that's the album. Yeah, that's the album that I worked.
Okay. So where did the Whitney Houston connection come in? Let's talk about that for a moment.
Okay, well then the KonKan stuff really was a struggle to
Yes.
keep going,
Yes.
and especially by the 90s. So I had met a friend of mine, or befriended a friend in the States named Chris Cox, who was
Yes.
very studio and MIDI and a DJ himself, and very much into editing those disconnects and those hot tracks versions. Very an editor as well, and I was working at my home studio, and we've throughout the mid 90s with him, back and forth. He lived in the States. I'd call him all the time. We eventually became friends. He started his own independent label, and he was doing Euro-y stuff at the time,
Mm-hmm.
which was a big thing, and in big in Canada in 95, 96, 97. So I did a Euro-y thing. We call that Out of Control, and that is when I met Kimberly Wetmore at first.
I'll
And
tell you
that was
about her in a minute.
another
Yeah.
little blip for a year or two, which also from some reason did well in Brazil. Um, and then he started his own independent label, and in Los Angeles, and him and his partner, business partner, invited me to come down to work with them. And we thought, well, let's just start our own little PWL type thing, maybe. And that's just, they've got the distribution deal, which is a big deal at the time. With what technology has changed all that since then, but to get into
Yes.
a record store was a big deal. So I went down there in January 98, got all the work permits and everything, moved down there, and we would do our own type of dance independent productions. I was almost like the studio, player, whatever. And we created an alter ego called Thunderpuss in
Yes.
1997. So we were doing our
Yes.
pop mixes, but then we do the alter ego. What's the type of New York underground cool club type version that we would do? Because I felt often that, because, I beg your pardon, turned so pop, I felt like the underground cool people like had abandoned me, and I felt that I'd maybe gone over too pop. So I needed to get back to my roots in the underground, of where I know what's going on down there. I've always kept my finger on the pulse of what's going on in pop music and the underground and house music and all that. So that is where we got offered. Well, Mark Nathan, we did a song. Once again, Mark Nathan offered us to do a remix for him, and that was called Billy Meyer's Kiss the Rain. He now worked for Universal Records because he'd always been
Okay.
in the record business and somewhere in some major label. So we were doing a lot of work for him.
Yes.
And we did a remix for him, and that blew up. And that's where one of the A&R guys for Whitney Houston at Arista Records heard it. It was a hit in its own right, and in the New York area. So he sought us out because he wanted some fresh blood, and he's the one that offered us. He gave us 2 songs. He said, "Which do you like?" And he gave us a demo of "If I Told You That" with George Michael and Whitney Houston, and "It's Not Right But It's Okay." And we said we liked "It's Not Right
Yes.
But It's Okay," and so we proceeded to work on that remix. And so I moved in January 1988, and by September or October, I was remixing Whitney Houston. It was like, whoa, once again.
Wow. Yeah.
Yeah.
Barry, you have done so much.
I know.
When I've been researching you, we had a conversation a week ago or so. I was trying to sort it all out. You have did so much in your career, so let's move from that. So where is right? There was a connection to anybody who doesn't know, folks. Originally, there was a television program in UK called Queers Folk, and in America,
Oh, yeah.
they started their version of Queers Folk. Now, Queers Folk in the UK finished first with a couple of sequels and whatever, but the American one carried on for quite some time. Tell us your connection to that, because there was actually a song, "Let's Get Soaking Wet," which I
Mhm.
actually heard yesterday.
Oh,
So tell
really?
me about that. I heard it yesterday. Ah, pop it away
Well,
again.
because I was writing a lot of music for these remixes. It's just how it was in those times. You had to reinterpret it, their song. We were getting hired by every single major record company. We were on fire at that time. We had a groove. We had 2 or 3 studios going on at one point, and we did have 3 actually, rooms going on at the same time. And I had the idea of, with the sound and the stuff, of doing the tribally stuff, the hey hoo ha, all those little things, and just the idea of I went into a club one night in Miami during the Record Music Conference, where all the DJs around the world would get together in March each year. and Danny Tenaglia was playing at Space, I think it was, a big club, and he had this scrolling digital sign above him that he was typing in little messages to the people. And then I remember someone said, "Oh, look at that! Danny's talking to people via that screen because no DJ is going to get on a microphone." And I thought, "Oh, okay, that's kind of cool." So I'm just whatever. I'm all get inspired sometimes when I'm just listening to stuff. And then I thought, "Gee, what if there was an actual record that said, 'How y'all feel out there tonight? Y'all feeling good? Let's get this party started.'" Like that type of that type of like it's not the only record that's thought of something like that, but I just thought it in a different way. And so it took me a couple of years before I finally had the time to actually execute this idea, something like that. And we'd done a lot of stuff. I brought Pepper Mache in to do a lot of it. We did remixes and needed background vocals or to enhance vocals.
Was that the voice to this?
Yes.
Yeah, amazing. I was just actually going to ask who that was because I only heard the audio. I didn't see there was no video or anything. I only heard the audio, so I
Right.
was trying to work out who it was. So thank
Yeah.
you for that. Thank you.
Yeah, her personality was always fun and sassy and
Yeah,
lovable and likable, and her just personality. How y'all feeling out there? Just like it just worked. And I remember when I made it, it was the same idea. I called some friends. I was like, let's get to. I was like, oh my God, this is really turning. I had a couple of friends like, I got chills. I'd say, Chris and I knew if we got chills ourselves, it's done. We got it. We hit on to something. So I felt that I had really latched onto something then at that time. So
okay. And what about this other little TV pro? Not little TV pro, huge TV program. There was a mention to a song called "Head," and that is connected to Will and Grace.
yeah, yeah. I had another friend of mine that was living in LA, and he was from Toronto. Had him sing it. Um, where did that idea like? Well, and once again, it's almost like I was thinking of that type of idea to be a follow up to Dive in the Pool, but at this
Yes.
point, I thought, oh, I'll put it out as a Thunderpuss record with Chris, and we'll work on it together. And I also wanted to not put it on a record label. I didn't want to sign it to a record label. I thought at this point we could do it and work it ourselves as a white label, putting it out to the DJs out there. And we did it. And it did go #1 on Billboard as that. So Barnes, who sang "Welcome to My Head," he had a friend that was a writer on Will and Grace as he lived out in Venice. So that was a once one of those who you know kind of things. How it ended up on
Huge. It
Will
was a
and Grace.
huge, huge show. Very
Yeah,
huge.
yeah.
Hmm.
So that was fun too, and it still never got signed to any record label to this day.
No,
No, no,
unbelievable.
we got uh, a request for I think it might have been the Subliminal Records at the time, and we were in the midst of splitting up, and I was like, I don't care about Subliminal Record. And it was kind of a mistake. Probably should have, but we didn't because I know that's a pretty big label too. Uh,
Okay.
we didn't, so I was a
Okay.
little more attitude at that point. Anyway.
Okay. Well, what we're going to do is because obviously I can't go over everything because, as I say, we need 16 hours.
Mhm.
I'm going to go right into the future. Let's go to 2023 and let's talk about Brazil and all. Tell me all about that connected to these videos that I seen, which I don't want to spoil anything, but I'll tell you this in a minute. Tell me all about that.
Oh, the 2020 2023.
I know we did fly forward there, but I had to because they say we will maybe do another one and we shall go into more details and stuff. So let's talk about 2023 Brazil. Tell me all about that.
Well, I had a fire lit under my butt to revisit um, as you know, throughout the years I've done a lot of reinventions, obviously with that, even that a couple of reinventions that we didn't mention, from the KonKan to out of
Yes.
control to even the Top Cat little project that didn't do anything, this whole roller coaster to doing my own solo stuff, and then now back to what I'm now going to call Barry Harris's KonKan.
Yes, that's right.
That is kind of a new reinvention, it somewhat. And I met these guys that were also an 80s cover band, and I stumbled upon, there's a friend of mine that said, hey, you should check these guys out, they do I beg your pardon really well. And I was pretty cynical because I know that's a hard song to perform live, because and to
Yes.
play live, because I've tried it a few times, and there's just, for me, it had to have that same kind of magic, and it was just so very difficult to duplicate live. And they did it, and I was like, wow. And I thought, oh, they're probably, who knows where they are, they could be in Germany for all I know. They were a couple of hours away from where I live. I was like, oh, hmm,
My
hmm.
God.
So I reached out to them, and they thought that I was going to do a cease and desist at first. But no, I want to talk to you guys, and let's talk about, like, getting it involved and doing like the band thing. So yeah, they were into it. We did rehearsals, and I reached out to Kimberly. I'd always, KonKan was always on the side burner all throughout all my life anyway. That had always been, of all the things I've done, that and Out of Control, even Whitney and Thunderpuss, all that stuff still, even though I may not be active, it's still part of my life and musical life, and that's never really changed. So
Yeah.
Kimberly, we got together again because we've been in and out of each other's life. I brought her in for a few studio things back in
That's what I
2013.
was going to ask you. Sorry to interrupt. Again, back to the second reaction I did when I heard
Oh
Kimberly
yeah,
singing To
yes,
Liberty.
yeah,
Again, I near passed out. I near fell out of my seat.
I know.
And
She's good.
now I'm not comparing her to you. I did say that. But see, when she opened her mouth, you
Yeah,
seen my reaction. She
I know.
is amazing.
I know.
So
I,
tell me a
I
bit about tell me a wee bit about Kimberly, and then we bit.
Well, we met doing the Out of Control stuff, and we recovered a Euro version of Sinful Wishes, and we redid What If God Was One of Us, so, and which is also on Spotify and stuff. So she
Okay.
sang all that stuff and doing studio stuff for us as well. And we toured Brazil with her.
Mm.
Me and my other friend Rashid, the three of us, called ourselves Out of Control. And so I'd known her since 97. And then I
Oh my
brought her back.
God.
Yeah, 96, 97 is when we went. And then I re-brought her in when I was doing some studio stuff back in 2013. I brought her and Simone Denny to do backups for me. That's Simone Denny of Loving, who does the You're a Superstar, because she's also
Fabulous.
got a long relationship with her as well. So I thought, oh, I got two really great girls to do
Mm.
backgrounds for these songs. So we reconnected then. And then, of course, time flies. And before you know it, it's 22, 22, 23. And I called Kimberly up again and said, would you be down for this? And she goes, absolutely. So we've always had a great relationship, throughout the years. So
Totally and utterly outstanding. That's all I can say.
I know
Can
she's,
I just say something here? And please don't take this the wrong way. Sometimes when I watch people, and please take this with respect, I don't mean it rudely.
good.
Um, when I see people when they're younger and they're singing, okay, and as we know, we're all not immortal. We do grow older. I find sometimes artists don't know when to stop, and their voice and stuff is not the same.
Mm,
Uh, but yet again, I can't see where they come from. It's in their blood. It's what they do. It's their thrive. It's their life. I'm not taking that away.
mhm.
But with you and that girl Kimberly, I'm not saying you're ancient or anything. Please don't be thinking I'm
I know,
saying
no,
that.
but
No, but you understand where I'm coming from. Your voices has not changed at all.
I know. Yeah,
Kimberly, Kimberly, you, Kimberly, as I say, I was near hitting that wall. Which when she hit that first note in Liberty, I near hit that wall. You know, so I hope you take that with respect.
yeah,
I mean
yeah.
that I make that as a compliment because I do know artists. I'm not going to name obviously who really you should say to yourself, like, will you just give up? It's time
Mm,
to sit back and do
right.
something. Maybe do a bit of promotional work or something, but just step back. Do you still got it? And I'm not just saying that. I'm not saying you're. Please don't think I'm thinking you're ancient or anything. I don't mean that, but I think you know what I mean.
I
I
know
think you
what
know
you
what I
mean.
mean.
I'm good. You said it takes a lot to hurt my feelings.
No.
Uh-oh. It's
So so Barry, what's life like for you today? What do you do with yourself today?
well, winter's coming. I've enjoyed the summer not doing much, really, really being very like retired-ish. Oh, sorry about that.
It's okay. It's okay.
Um, but now winter's coming, so I'm really looking forward to. I've started working again on music, and
Yes,
and who knows? Sorry, I'm trying to turn my phone off here.
that's okay.
Distracted me. And no, so I'm poking as I do. I've never stopped. I've been in and out of doing music and stuff, and if I'm feeling inspired to do so and motivated to do so, then that's what I do. So I've worked on off and on some things over the years, and I'm just revisiting them. So I'm poking. I'm suspecting over the winter time I'm going to get, because we get snowbound here. So I'm
Yes.
suspecting that's how I'm going to spend my time digging, sinking my teeth into doing some musical things again. And I'll just keep it vague at that.
You just keep going and keep doing what you're doing. A couple of things I want to say to you before we finish. A couple of memories I have about the video of I beg your pardon. And one of them was the belt. Do you remember the belt, the big, the large
Oh yeah,
buckle belt?
right.
That stands out in my mind because that was my era. The fashion, the jeans,
Mm,
the Liberty video, which I actually seen for the first recently. Those little tiny round glasses,
all right.
unbelievable. You know. Well, look, thank you so much for doing this today.
Oh, thank you. It's fun.
And I'm going to tell you something. I feel really, really honored that you've done this for me. And maybe in the future we can connect up again to
Mhm.
see what you're doing in the future. And then maybe we'll go back again and go through the bits that we didn't get in. Because as I say, but there's pages and pages and pages here. We'd be here for 7 hours, you know?
Right, of
Well,
course.
well, listen, folks. Thank you so much for joining us today, but we are not leaving you without some sort of music. So, folks, we're not going to leave you high and dry, as I say, with music. We are going to play, I beg your pardon, but it's not the 80s, back to the 80s. This is the 2023 version that Barry and I were talking about there. So before we go on to the video, I just want to thank Barry one more time. Thank you so much for joining me today.
Oh, thank you, Stuart.
And hopefully we will talk again soon. So
Mhm.
what we're going to do is, folks, we're going to play you out with I beg your pardon. And thank you all for watching today. See you all very soon. The video is just loading up as we speak here.
There once was a time and there once was a way. We had something going, then to my dismay, attention to me seemed to drift, though I don't know where. And when we're alone, seems there's nothing to say. I bring up the topic, you push it away. You say that you do, but I think it's just you don't care. Why do I feel you're using me? get too deep, even though I'm worth so much more. So think about it carefully.
Smile for a while and let's be jolly. Life shouldn't be so melancholy. But come along and share the good time while you can.
Do you want to hustle? That's right. Do you want to fight? That's right. Do you want to hustle? That's right. Do you want to fight?
If that's how you want it, that's how it'll be. There's no use in trying, no making you see that love don't come easy, you don't know what it's about. To get things together won't take any pain. No need to see or hear from you never again. From this day on, lesson learned, no more games, count me out. And you know what I talk about.
Smile for a while and let's be jolly. Life shouldn't be so melancholy. Come along and share the good time while we can.
I know now's the time that I went to find something new.